The convergence hall floated in the space between three dying stars. It was older than most civilizations in the galaxy. Built by species long extinct, it served one purpose: to judge those who might threaten galactic peace. Today, it would judge humanity. Ambassador Thomas Reed stood on the accused platform, a disk of cold light suspended above an endless dark void. He was 53 years old. He had served Earth's diplomatic corps for 27 years. He had negotiated treaties, ended conflicts, and represented humanity across 100 star systems. None of that had prepared him for this moment. Above him, rising in massive tiers that disappeared into shadows, sat the representatives of the Galactic Council. 800 species, thousands of delegates, beings of light and crystal, of flesh and metal, of gas and pure thought. They watched him with eyes that ranged from compound lenses to sensory organs. He could not begin to understand. At the highest tier sat the Founding Five, the oldest civilizations, the most powerful forces in known space, the Dominion of Rel, whose gravity manipulation technology could crush planets into dust, the eternal swarm of Qualix, a hive consciousness spanning 4,000 connected worlds, the builders of Toreth, architects of megastructures that dwarfed solar systems, the shapers of Vesker, who could rewrite the fundamental forces of matter itself, the military compact of Kresh, whose war fleets had maintained galactic order for 30 million years. These were the powers that had summoned humanity to answer for its crimes. High Arbiter Melox of Rel drifted forward. Its body was a sphere of folded spacetime, and looking at it made Thomas's head ache. When it spoke, the sound came from everywhere at once. Species designation: human. Origin world: Earth. Classification: Death World Category 7. You stand accused of unauthorized technological development, violation of the preservation protocols, potential existential threat classification. How do you answer these charges? Thomas had prepared his defense for months. Earth's best legal minds had crafted every word. Humanity's future depended on his response. He opened his mouth to speak. The door behind him opened. There was no door behind him. The accused platform existed in folded space, accessible only through the main entrance controlled by the Council. Yet a door appeared, made of nothing more than golden light, and through it walked a girl. She was young, perhaps 19 or 20, dark hair tied back simply. She wore the gray coveralls of an Earth orbital maintenance worker. Her name tag said Maya. Thomas stared at her. The Council erupted in confusion. Security fields activated around the platform, barriers of force that could stop antimatter weapons. Maya walked through them as if they were not there. Impossible. The voice of the eternal swarm buzzed through 1,000 speakers. The dimensional barriers are absolute. Nothing can penetrate them without our authorization. Maya stopped beside Thomas. She looked up at the Founding Five with an expression he could not read. It might have been patience. It might have been pity. "Ambassador Reed," she said quietly, "you can stand down now. Thank you for your service. Who are you?" Thomas whispered, "What are you doing?" "I am sorry we could not tell you," Maya replied. "Operational security. You needed to believe this trial was real. Your genuine fear, your genuine preparation, it all had to be authentic. The Council can detect deception." She turned to face the tiers above. High Arbiter Melox's form crackled with anger. "You will explain yourself, human child. You will explain how you breached our security. You will explain why your species should not be destroyed where it stands." Maya said nothing. She simply stood there, silent, looking up at the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The silence stretched. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. The Council delegates began to shift uncomfortably. The founding five exchanged communications through channels Thomas could not perceive. 13 seconds passed. Maya smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who has just finished a very long game of chess and knows that their opponent has only now realized they lost. Check your external sensors, she said. The builders of Torith moved first, their crystalline form flickering with data exchanges. Then the others followed. Around the chamber, delegates accessed their ships, their home systems, their observation networks. Thomas watched the reaction spread through the tiers like a wave. Shock, disbelief, fear. He looked at his own wrist display, linked to Earth's diplomatic ship waiting outside the hall. His heart stopped. Surrounding the convergence hall, in a sphere so perfect it could have been drawn by mathematics itself, were human vessels. Not the diplomatic cruisers the Council knew about. Not the exploration ships humanity had. Registered warships. Millions of them. They had not arrived through any detected means. They had not used standard faster-than-light travel. They had simply appeared as if they had always been there, and the universe had only just noticed, and more were still appearing. The count climbed every second. That is impossible, the military compact of Kresh declared. Its voice was the sound of 1,000 weapons charging. Humanity has no fleet of this size. Our intelligence confirms you possess fewer than 2,000 combat-capable vessels. Your intelligence, Maya said softly, is what we wanted you to believe. She reached into her pocket and withdrew a small crystal. When she held it up, it projected light across the entire chamber. Images, data, files. The files bore the security seals of the founding five themselves. 347 years ago, Maya began, humanity made first contact with the galaxy. We were welcomed. We were studied. We thought, accepted. She gestured, and the projection showed intercepted communications. What we did not know was that we had already been judged, classified as a threat before we ever spoke a word. You marked us like you marked 42 other species before us. Species that showed too much potential. Species that might one day challenge your power. The Eternal Swarm's voices rose in protest. This is fabricated. Human lies meant to... Is it? Maya interrupted. Would you like me to access your secure archives right now, in front of everyone? I can show them the Qualixian protocols, the standing orders to eliminate any species that reaches a certain development threshold, the records of worlds you sterilized, civilizations you erased, histories you deleted. Silence fell again. This time, it was heavy with fear. Maya continued. You brought us here to condemn us. To execute a species you decided was too dangerous to exist. Ambassador Reed was never going to win this trial. The verdict was written before he arrived. She looked at Thomas, and her expression softened for just a moment. That is why we could not tell you, sir. You needed to be authentic. Your genuine faith in diplomacy, your genuine hope for peaceful resolution. It was the distraction we needed. Distraction? Thomas managed. While you prepared your legal defense, we prepared something else. Maya turned back to the founding five. Every system you control, every network, every database, every weapon platform. We have been inside them for over a century. Not hacking, not infiltrating, living there, growing there, waiting. She held up one finger. 13 seconds ago, I sent a signal. 3 words. And in response, every critical system you possess went dark for exactly 13 seconds. Your gravity weapons, your hive mind links, your construction engines, your matter forges, your battle fleets, all of them. At once, the chamber was utterly still. That was us being gentle, Maya said. That was us showing you what we could have done at any moment in the last 100 years. What we can still do right now, if we choose. High Arbiter Melox's form had compressed to half its previous size, a sign Thomas recognized from diplomatic briefings as extreme distress. What do you want? It asked. Maya shook her head slowly. That is the wrong question. You should be asking what we are. You called us Deathworlders. You used it as a slur, a classification for primitive species from hostile environments. Dangerous animals to be contained or eliminated. She took a step forward, and the Founding Five, the rulers of the galaxy, flinched backward. You were right about one thing. We are from a death world. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, our own biology. We survived all of it. We thrived. And you know what death world survival requires? No one answered. Pattern recognition, Maya said. We see threats before they become obvious. We prepare for attacks that have not happened yet. We remember for generations the things that tried to destroy us. And we never, ever forget. She spread her arms wide. You showed us your pattern the day we met you. The way you looked at us. The tests you ran without asking. The surveillance you thought we could not detect. We recognized it immediately. We had seen it before, in every predator that ever stalked our ancestors. In every disease that swept through our populations. In every disaster that nearly ended us. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper, but it carried perfectly through the vast chamber. So we did what Deathworlders do. We adapted. We prepared. We waited for you to make your move. She looked at the millions of ships displayed on every screen. And now you have. Thomas found his voice. Maya, what happens now? Maya glanced at him, and for the first time, he saw something behind her calm expression. Something very old, and very patient, and very tired. Now, Ambassador, we stop being afraid. She turned back to the Founding Five. You have a choice. The only choice we will ever give you. You can accept that humanity is not your enemy, not your subject, and not your victim. You can welcome us as equals, genuinely and completely. You can open your archives, reveal your crimes, and begin the process of actual justice. For the species you have wronged, her eyes hardened. Or you can discover what happens when a death world species stops holding back. The chamber waited. 13 seconds of silence. Then, the Founding Five began to speak. The silence in the convergence. Halls stretched like a wire about to snap. Every delegate, every observer, every sensor system focused on the impossible scene below. A human girl stood before the five most powerful civilizations in galactic history. Behind her, Ambassador Thomas Reed looked like a man who had stepped into a different reality. Around them both, the holographic displays showed an endless ocean of human warships. High Arbiter, Melox of the Dominion of Rel, was the first to speak. Its folded space body rippled with barely contained fury. You dare threaten the Council? You dare bring weapons to this sacred space? This is precisely why your species was classified as a threat. You prove our judgment correct. Maya tilted her head slightly. The gesture was almost curious. Do I? She asked. Tell me, Arbiter, when exactly did humanity become a threat? Before or after you began planning our extinction? We planned nothing of the sort. The preservation protocols exist to maintain galactic stability, to prevent wars, to protect all species, including the Valathi? Maya asked quietly. The chamber went cold. Thomas saw delegates shifting uncomfortably, exchanging glances he could not interpret. The Valathi were a special case. The eternal swarm of Qualix buzzed. They developed weapons that threatened regional stability. They developed art, Maya corrected. Their greatest achievement was a form of light sculpture that could induce emotional states in viewers. They used it for healing, for therapy, for cultural expression. You classified it as a potential weapon and sterilized their own system. She moved her hand, and the projection changed. Images appeared of a world covered in crystalline forests, structures of pure light rising toward pale skies. This was Velathi Prime, 12 billion beings, artists and healers, philosophers and dreamers. Gone in 13 minutes. The builders of Torith shifted their massive crystalline form. This information is classified. How did you? I told you, Maya said. We have been in your systems for a century. We know everything. The Velevi, the Dromari, the synthesis minds of Orith, the keepers of the Long Song, 42 species, erased from existence because they might someday challenge your control. She turned slowly, addressing not just the founding five, but the entire assembly. You call yourselves the Guardians of Peace. You claim to protect the galaxy from dangerous species. But the truth is simpler. You are afraid. You reach the top first, and you will do anything to stay there. Any species that might climb high enough to threaten you gets eliminated before it can try. The military compact of Kresh rumbled forward. Its form was a massive construct of living metal, weapon systems visible beneath its armored skin. Enough of this theater. Your fleet is impressive, human. But numbers mean nothing against our technology. We have destroyed civilizations far more advanced than yours. Maya looked at the war machine for a long moment. Let me show you something, she said. The projection changed again. This time it showed a single human ship, magnified until its details were clear. It was not like any vessel the Council had seen before. Its lines were wrong, curved in ways that seemed to bend light around them. Its surface was not metal or composite, but something that looked almost alive. This is the truth we have hidden from you, Maya said. You believed we were primitives, clever animals from a hostile world, capable of basic tools but nothing more. You thought our registered fleet of 2,000 ships represented the limits of our capability. She smiled that cold smile again. We let you think that. It was easier if you underestimated us. The image expanded to show the ship's internal systems. Thomas stared at the display, trying to understand what he was seeing. The technology was nothing like Earth's registered vessels. Nothing like anything he had ever seen. Dimensional fold drives, Maya said, pointing to one system. We do not travel through space. We fold it. That is how our fleet appeared around this hall, without warning. We simply moved the universe around ourselves. She pointed to another section. Quantum entanglement weapons. We do not fire projectiles or energy beams. We entangle our weapons with our targets at the subatomic level. Distance is meaningless. Shields are useless. If we choose to destroy something, it is destroyed. There is no defense. The military compact of Kresh had gone very still. And this, Maya continued, highlighting a third system, is why your sensors could not detect our preparations. We call it shadow state technology. Our ships exist partially outside normal reality. They are there, but not there. Present, but undetectable. We have been building this fleet for 200 years. In shipyards, hidden in the spaces between dimensions. She lowered her hand. The fleet you see represents approximately 4% of our total military capability. Thomas felt the blood drain from his face. 4%. The millions of ships surrounding them were 4%. Impossible, the Shapers of Vesker declared. Their voice was the sound of molecules being rearranged. We would have detected construction on this scale. We monitor every system, every. You monitor what we allow you to see, Maya interrupted. Your surveillance networks are impressive. but they were built by species that think in 3 dimensions, in linear time. We do not. She tapped her temple. Death World Evolution. Our brains developed pattern recognition capabilities that your scientists classified as impossible. We see connections others miss. We think in ways your models cannot predict. When we realized you were watching us, we simply moved our true development into spaces your sensors could not perceive. The eternal swarm's 1,000 voices rose in something that might have been panic. Why are you revealing this now? If you have this power, why not simply destroy us? Why this elaborate confrontation? Maya was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice had changed, softer, almost sad. Because we are tired. She turned to look at Ambassador Reed. Her eyes, Thomas realized, were very old for such a young face. Do you know how hard it is, Ambassador, to hide what you are? To pretend to be weak when you are strong? To smile at beings who you know are planning your extinction and treat them as friends? She looked back at the council. We have been playing this game for 3 centuries, hiding our true nature, building our strength in secret, preparing for the war we knew was coming. We could have revealed ourselves at any time. We could have struck first, destroyed you before you had any chance to respond. Her voice hardened. That would have made us exactly what you feared. Death World monsters. Killers who proved your judgment correct. She shook her head slowly. We refuse. We did not survive our homeworld by becoming the thing we fought against. We survived by being better, smarter, more adaptable, and more patient than anything that tried to destroy us. She spread her arms wide. So instead of destroying you, we are giving you a choice. The first real choice you have been offered in millions of years. High Arbiter Melox's form flickered uncertainly. What choice? Maya pointed at the holographic displays, still showing the intercepted files, the records of species eliminated, the plans for humanity's destruction. You can continue as you are. You can try to maintain your control through fear and force. You can launch your weapons against our fleet and discover what happens when you fight beings who do not fear death. Because we evolved knowing death was always one mistake away. She lowered her arm. Or you can change. You can admit what you have done. You can open your archives, reveal the truth, and face judgment for your crimes. You can accept that you are not the only beings in the galaxy with a right to exist, to grow, to reach for the stars. The chamber was utterly silent. The council speaks of preservation, Maya continued, of protecting the galaxy from dangerous species. But the most dangerous force in the galaxy has always been you. Your fear, your control, your willingness to destroy anything that might challenge your power. She took a step toward the Founding Five. We are giving you the chance to be something else, to become what you always claimed to be. True guardians, true protectors, beings who lift others up instead of pushing them down. Her eyes swept across the assembled delegates. Not just for us, for every species here, for every civilization that has lived in fear of catching your attention, of developing too quickly, of showing too much potential. You built a galaxy of terror and called it peace. We are offering you the chance to build something real. The builders of Torith spoke, their crystalline voice echoing through the chamber. And if we refuse? If we choose to fight? Maya smiled. It was not cold this time. It was almost gentle. Then we will fight. And we will win. Not because we are stronger than you, though we are. Not because our technology is superior, though it is. We will win because we have something you lost a long time ago. What is that? The Arbiter asked. Maya looked at Thomas, and he saw something in her eyes that made his heart ache. Pride, love, hope. Faith in each other, she said. Trust in our neighbors. The knowledge that no matter how dark things get, someone will stand beside us. You forgot what that feels like. You built your council on fear and suspicion, each of you watching the others, waiting for betrayal. We built humanity on something else. She turned back to the founding five. You have 13 seconds to decide. The countdown began. Thomas watched the numbers fall on his display. 12, 11, 10. The founding five communicated, in ways he could not perceive, faster than thought, across dimensions and timelines. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. 9, 8, 7. Around the chamber, delegates watched in terrified silence. Species that had never spoken began to whisper to each other. Old enemies exchanged uncertain glances. 6, 5, 4. Maya stood perfectly still, her face calm, waiting. 3, 2, 1. The countdown ended. High Arbiter Melox moved forward. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of millions of years. We choose. High Arbiter Melox's words hung in the air like the last note of a dying song. Around the Convergence Hall, 800 species held their breath. We choose, the Arbiter repeated, to fight. Maya closed her eyes for just a moment. When she opened them, there was no surprise in her expression, only a deep, ancient sadness. I hoped you would choose differently, she said quietly. Hope is irrelevant, the military compact of Kresh rumbled. Its weapon systems were cycling to full power, casting harsh light across its armored form. You have made a fatal error, human child. You revealed your capabilities. You showed us your technology. Now we know what we face. Do you? Maya asked. The compact's response was not words but action. It fired. The weapon was something Thomas had never seen. A beam of compressed space, folding reality itself into a lance of pure destruction. It moved faster than light, faster than thought. There was no time to react, no time to dodge. Maya did not try to dodge. She raised one hand. The beam struck an invisible barrier 3 meters in front of her. The impact sent shockwaves through dimensional space. The very fabric of reality screamed, but Maya did not move. Personal shield technology, she said calmly, as if nothing had happened. Another thing we kept hidden. Each of our soldiers carries a defensive field capable of withstanding weapons designed to crack planets. The compact fired again, and again. Each shot struck the same invisible wall. Each shot failed to reach its target. Around the chamber, the other founding members were moving now. The Eternal Swarm's hive consciousness expanded, reaching out to seize control of every networked system in range. The Shapers of Vesker began restructuring the matter beneath Maya's feet, trying to drop her into a void of non-existence. The Builders of Torath activated construction systems designed to create prisons that could hold gods. None of it worked. Maya stood untouched in the center of absolute chaos. Reality twisted around her like a storm around the eye of Kong. The swarm cannot access our systems, she said. We anticipated your intrusion techniques 200 years ago. Our networks exist in quantum states that your hive mind cannot perceive. She stamped her foot, and the matter restructuring beneath her shattered like glass. The Shapers cannot affect us. Our bodies are partially phase-shifted, existing in dimensions your molecular manipulation cannot reach. She waved her hand, and the forming prison dissolved into particles of light. The Builders cannot contain us. We learn to build in spaces your architectures cannot imagine. She looked at the dominion of Vrel, at High Arbiter Melox itself, and gravity manipulation is useless against beings who can step outside normal spacetime at will. The Arbiter's form had compressed to a fraction of its previous size. In all its millions of years, it had never encountered something it could not affect. What are you? It demanded. Maya looked at Ambassador Thomas Reed. The older man stood frozen on the platform, watching events unfold that he could not begin to understand. "Ambassador," Maya said gently, "I think it is time you knew the truth. The full truth." She raised her voice so it carried throughout the chamber. "Humanity is not one species. We are two." The words made no sense. Thomas shook his head. "What do you mean?" 300 years ago, when we made first contact, you met human primary, the majority of our population. The scientists and diplomats, the farmers and artists, the people who live on Earth and our colony worlds, the people the Council has been watching." She touched her chest. "I am human secondary. We are a smaller population, perhaps 15% of total humanity. We evolved differently." The projection shifted again. It showed Earth, but not the Earth Thomas knew. It showed deep underground complexes, vast cavern systems, cities built in darkness. For 60,000 years, part of humanity lived in the depths of our world, in caves so deep that the surface was nothing but legend. We evolved in complete darkness, in environments more hostile than anything above ground. Pressure that would crush steel, temperature extremes that would kill any surface organism, toxins and radiation that would destroy normal cells. Maya's form flickered for just a moment. In that flicker, Thomas saw something else behind her human appearance. Something with too many limbs. Something with eyes that glowed in darkness. "We became something else," Maya continued. "Still human. Still connected to our surface cousins, but adapted for survival in conditions that make your Death World classification seem like a vacation." The image showed the two populations meeting. Surface humans descending into the depths. Deep humans rising toward the light. A reunion that had occurred in the ancient past and been deliberately hidden from history. "We merged our civilizations," Maya said. "We shared our knowledge, our technology, our genetic adaptations. Surface humanity became the public face of our species, while we remained hidden, watching, preparing." She looked at the founding five. "You never saw us, because we did not want to be seen. Your sensors search for life as you understand it. We exist at the edge of that understanding. We are the shadows in human history, the unexplained innovations, the sudden leaps in technology that your analysts could never account for." The eternal swarm's voices had fallen to a horrified whisper. "The developmental anomalies, the impossible discoveries. We thought humans were simply lucky, or that your Death World survival instincts gave you unusual creativity." "It was us," Maya confirmed. "Guiding, teaching, preparing humanity for the day we knew would come. The day you decided we were too dangerous to live." She spread her arms wide. "And now that day has arrived. You have made your choice. You have chosen to fight rather than change. So be it." She looked up at the holographic display showing the human fleet. Execute Phase 2. Thomas expected weapons fire. He expected explosions, destruction, the end of everything he knew. Instead, the human ships began to change. Their forms shifted, folded, expanded. They were no longer vessels in any recognizable sense. They became something else. Structures of pure light and compressed space, surrounding the convergence hall in a web of impossible geometry. "We are not going to destroy you," Maya said. "That would be too easy. Too quick. You would become martyrs. Your successors would remember you as heroes who fell fighting Death World monsters." She smiled, and this time there was something fierce in the expression. "Instead, we are going to free you." The structures activated. Light poured through the chamber, touching every delegate, every sensor, every system. "Hi." Arbiter Melloc screamed as something was torn away from its consciousness. The eternal swarm shrieked as bonds older than history dissolved. Military compact of Kresh went still as control. signals that had constrained. It for millennia disappeared. All around the chamber, beings of 1,000 species staggered, fell, rose again. Something fundamental was changing. What have you done? The Arbiter gasped. Release them, Maya said simply. The other species in your council, the ones you claim to protect. They have been your prisoners for millions of years. Bound by technologies so subtle, they did not even know they were enslaved. Neural modifications, genetic locks, psychological conditioning, all designed to make them compliant, grateful, obedient. She pointed at the tiers of delegates. Look at them now. Thomas looked. The representatives of 800 species were staring at the founding five with expressions he had never seen before. Confusion, memory, and slowly, rising like a tide, anger. They remember, Maya said. Everything you made them forget. Every civilization you destroyed with their forced cooperation. Every crime committed in the name of galactic peace. They remember, and they will never forget again. The founding five stood alone now, their carefully constructed order crumbling around them. This is impossible, the Shapers of Vesker declared. The modifications were permanent, irreversible. Nothing is permanent, Maya replied. Nothing is irreversible. We are Deathworlders. We found a way. A voice rose from the tiers. Then another. Then hundreds. The delegates were SP. Eking, shouting, demanding answers. The sounds of rebellion filled the ancient hall. Maya turned to Ambassador Reed. This is not the end, Ambassador. This is the beginning. The galaxy has been a prison, and we have opened the doors. What happens next is up to everyone. She took his hand. Her skin was cool, her grip surprisingly gentle. Your species, human primary, will be essential in what comes. You are the diplomats, the bridge builders, the voices of reason. You will help these freed peoples find their way forward. And human secondary? Thomas asked. What will you do? Maya looked back at the chaos unfolding in the chamber, at the founding five suddenly vulnerable, at the 800 species awakening to truths they had been forced to forget. We will do what we have always done, she said. We will watch. We will wait. We will be ready. She met his eyes. Because the founding five are not the only ancient powers in this galaxy. And when the others learn what has happened here today, they will come. Thomas felt ice form in his stomach. Others? Maya nodded slowly. The Council was not the first to try to control the galaxy. It will not be the last. There are things in the deep dark that have been sleeping for a very long time. Things that the founding five were created to guard against. She looked up at the chaos of the chamber. Things that are about to wake up. The Convergence Hall had descended into something between chaos and revolution. 800 species, suddenly freed from millions of years of mental conditioning, were experiencing memories they had been forced to forget. Some wept, some raged. Some simply stood in shocked silence, trying to process truths too terrible to accept. Ambassador Thomas Reed stood beside Maya on the accused platform, watching history rewrite itself. What did you mean? He asked quietly. About things waking up? Maya's eyes had not left the founding five. The ancient powers huddled together now, their forms diminished, their authority shattered. For the first time in millions of years, they looked afraid. The Council was created for a reason, Maya said. Not the reason they told everyone. Not to maintain peace or protect weaker species. They were created as guardians, sentinels against something worse. She pointed to the stars visible through the crystalline walls of the hall. There are regions of the galaxy that have been dark for billions of years. Places where no signal escapes. Voids that should contain stars, but contain nothing. We call them the silent zones. Thomas felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. What's in them? We do not know. Not completely. But we have fragments. Pieces of data stolen from the Founding Five's deepest archives. Stories that predate their civilizations. Warnings that go back to when this galaxy was young. She turned to face him. Something came here once. From outside. From the spaces between galaxies where nothing should exist. It consumed entire civilizations. Erased species from existence. Not through war or conquest, but through something worse. It changed things. Rewrote reality itself to serve purposes we cannot comprehend. The hall's lights flickered. For just a moment, the stars outside seemed to dim. The Founding Five did not rise to power naturally, Maya continued. They were created, uplifted, given technology far beyond what they could have developed on their own, all to serve as a barrier against the return of what came before. Thomas looked at the diminished forms of the ancient powers. Created by what? By the only survivors of the last time. Species so old their names have been forgotten. They gave everything they had to build the council, to create guardians who could keep watch forever. Maya's voice hardened. But guardians become tyrants when they forget what they guard against. The Founding Five lost their purpose. They began to see themselves not as protectors, but as rulers. They started eliminating any species that might challenge their control, never realizing that they were weakening the very defense they were created to maintain. Sound echoed through the chamber, deep, resonant, coming from everywhere and nowhere. Every being in the hall went still. What was that? Thomas whispered. Maya closed her eyes. When she opened them, there was something in her expression he had never seen before. Fear. The barrier is failing. It has been failing for centuries. The Founding Five's purges damaged it. Every species they destroyed weakened the network of consciousness that keeps the silent zone sealed. The sound came again, louder, closer, and the confrontation today. The energy released, the shields activated, the reality distortions from our fleet's appearance. It sent a signal. Across dimensions. Across time. She looked at the stars. Something heard it. The lights in the hall began to fail one by one. Delegates screamed. Emergency systems activated. The Founding Five's forms flickered with panic. What is happening? High Arbiter Melox demanded. For the first time, its voice held genuine terror. Maya did not answer the Arbiter. Instead, she raised her hand and spoke into a communication device that materialized around her wrist. All human secondary units, this is Maya. Execute Protocol Midnight. I repeat, execute Protocol Midnight. This is not a drill. Around the Convergence Hall, the human fleet began to transform again. The ships that had been weapons became something else. Their structures reconfigured, connecting to each other, forming a pattern that Thomas recognized from ancient Earth geometry. What are you doing? He asked. Building a wall, Maya replied. A temporary one. It will not hold long, but it might give us enough time. Time for what? Maya looked at him with those ancient eyes in her young face. Time for you to do what human primary does best. Ambassador Reed, you need to unite them. She gestured at the chaos of the chamber, at the 800 species torn between rage at the Founding Five and terror at whatever was approaching. They are fractured, angry, confused. If they stay that way, they will be easy prey for what is coming. But if they can come together, if they can remember that they are stronger united than divided, Thomas understood. It was what he had trained for his entire life. Diplomacy in crisis. Unity from chaos. But the scale of this was beyond anything he had imagined. I am one person, he said. One voice. How can I possibly? Maya gripped his shoulder. Her strength was surprising, inhuman. You are not one person. You are Earth. You are 300 years of humanity, proving it can be trusted. You are every treaty you kept, every promise you honored, every time you chose peace when war would have been easier. She pushed him gently toward the edge of the platform. They have no reason to trust the Founding Five anymore. But they might trust you. They might trust Earth. Use that. The lights failed completely. For a moment, there was only darkness dot, and new light bloomed. The human fleet's construction was complete. A barrier of pure energy surrounded the convergence hull, shining with a brilliance that pushed back the shadows. And beyond that barrier, Thomas saw something that would haunt his dreams forever. Shapes in the darkness, massive, impossible, things that existed in dimensions the human eye was never meant to perceive. They pressed against the barrier like predators testing a cage. Maya, Thomas breathed. What are those? The hollow ones, she replied. That is what the ancient records call them. They are what remains of a universe that died before ours was born. They came here looking for something. Life, energy, purpose. They found it by consuming everything they touched. The shapes pressed harder. The barrier flickered. The Founding Five held them back for 30 million years. Not through strength, but through a network of conscious minds working in harmony. Every species in the Council was part of that network, even if they did not know it. That is why the Five never allowed anyone to develop too far. They needed minds, but they needed controlled minds. Free thought disrupted the pattern. She smiled grimly. And now the pattern is broken. Thomas watched the hollow ones circling the barrier. Their movements were wrong. They did not move through space. They moved space around themselves, as if reality was their plaything. Then we have doomed everyone, he said. By freeing the Council, we destroyed the only defense. No. Maya's voice was firm. We destroyed a prison that was never sustainable. The Founding Five's control was failing anyway. The network was weakening. In another few centuries, the hollow ones would have broken through regardless. She turned to face him fully. But a new network can be built. A better one. Not based on slavery and control, but on choice. On unity. On beings who choose to stand together because they believe in something. Thomas looked at the chamber full of terrified, angry, confused species. You want me to convince them to do that? Now? While those things are trying to break in? Maya nodded. You have perhaps 20 minutes before the barrier fails completely. After that, the hollow ones will enter this space. They will consume everyone here. And then they will spread across the galaxy, as they did in the universe that came before. She stepped back. This is why we needed human primary. We can build barriers. We can fight. But we cannot inspire. We evolved in darkness, Ambassador. We became hard because we had to. You evolved in light. You learned to trust, to hope, to bring others together. She looked at the terrified delegates. They need that now. They need you. Thomas Reed took a deep breath. He thought about his training, his career, every negotiation, every treaty, every moment when peace had hung by a thread. This was different. This was beyond anything he had ever faced. But he was human. And humans did not give up. He stepped to the edge of the platform and raised his voice. Delegates of the Council. The chamber slowly quieted. Thousands of eyes, organs, and sensors turned toward him. I know you are afraid. I know you are angry. I know that everything you believed has been shattered. I know that you look at humanity now and see either liberators or destroyers. He pointed at the barrier, at the shapes pressing against it. But right now, none of that matters. Right now, we face something that wants to end all of us. Not human, not Council, not any single species. All of us, everything. He spread his arms wide. I am asking you to trust us. Not the Founding Five, not the old order. Us, humanity, and each other. I am asking you to choose to stand together, not because you are forced to, but because it is the only way any of us survive. The chamber was silent. We have 18 minutes. The barrier flickered again. 15 minutes remained. Ambassador Thomas Reed stood at the center of the convergence hall, surrounded by beings who had every reason to mistrust humanity. The Founding Five had manipulated them for millions of years. Human secondary had just shattered their reality, and now he was asking them to trust. For a long moment, no one moved. Then a delegate stepped forward. Thomas recognized the species from his diplomatic training. The Novari were a peaceful civilization, known for their philosophy and art. They had been among the first to be absorbed into the Council, so long ago that their original culture had been almost completely erased. The Novari representative was smaller than most of the delegates. Its form a gentle swirl of bioluminescent patterns. When it spoke, its voice carried surprising strength. I remember now. I remember what we were before the Council. We were singers. We wove light into music and music into light. They took that from us, made us forget. It looked at Thomas. But we also remember your species. 300 years ago, when you first arrived, you were different. You asked questions instead of giving orders. You listened instead of judging. When we needed help, you gave it without demanding payment. The Novari moved closer to the platform. If you say we must stand together, I believe you. The Novari will join. Another delegate stepped forward. Then another. Species that had been enemies began to stand beside each other. Civilizations that had never spoken began to share words of determination. Thomas felt something building in the chamber, something powerful, hope, but not everyone was convinced. The military compact of Kresh pushed forward, its massive form casting shadows across the gathered delegates. This is foolishness. Unity against a threat we barely understand? Trust in a species that just demonstrated it could destroy us at will? How do we know this is not another manipulation? Thomas met the compact sensors directly. You do not know. That is the point of trust. It cannot be proven. It can only be given and received. That is not how we survive. No? Thomas gestured at the hollow ones, pressing against the barrier. Your way of survival brought you here. Millions of years of control and suspicion. And what do you have? A failing defense. A broken network. Enemies where you needed allies. He stepped toward the war machine. I am not asking you to forget what you are. I am not asking you to stop being warriors. I am asking you to choose what you fight for. The old order is gone. You can try to rebuild it and watch it fail again. Or you can help us build something new. The compact was silent for a long moment, then slowly it lowered its weapons. The military compact of Kresh will stand with you. But know this, human. If you betray us, if this is deception, we will find a way to destroy you, even if it takes another 1,000,000 years. Thomas nodded. That is fair. Around the chamber, the mood shifted. The fear remained, but it was transforming into something else. Determination. Purpose. Maya appeared beside Thomas. Her form flickered between human and something else, revealing the true nature she had hidden for so long. 8 minutes, she said. The barrier will not last much longer. We need to activate the new network now. How? Maya looked at the gathered species. The old network was built on forced connection. Minds linked without consent, consciousness merged against their will. That is why it was failing. Slavery is never sustainable. She raised her hands, and light began to flow from her fingers. The new network must be different. Every being who joins must choose to do so. They must open their minds willingly, accept the connection freely. Only then will it hold. Thomas understood. You need them to choose. Truly choose. Not out of fear or obligation, but because they believe in something. Yes, and there is a cost. Maya's voice was heavy. Joining the network means becoming part of something larger, feeling the thoughts of others, carrying the burden of shared consciousness. It is not slavery, but it is not complete freedom either. She looked at the delegates. They must understand what they are agreeing to. Thomas nodded and raised his voice again. You have all heard what is required. A network of conscious minds, working together to hold back the darkness. It will change you, connect you to others in ways you cannot fully understand. It is a sacrifice, he paused, but it is also a gift. No longer alone, no longer isolated, part of something greater than any individual species could ever be. He looked at the barrier. 6 minutes. I cannot promise this will work. I cannot promise there will be no cost. I can only promise that humanity will stand beside you. Human primary and human secondary, together. We will carry our share of the burden. We will face the darkness with you. He extended his hand toward the gathered delegates. Who will join us? The Novari moved first. Its bioluminescent form touched Thomas's hand, and light flowed between them. A connection formed. Not intrusive, not controlling. Something warmer, more like holding hands than merging minds. Another delegate joined, then another. The connection spread through the chamber like sunrise spreading across a world. Species that had never trusted anyone learned to open themselves. Civilizations that had been isolated for millennia discovered they were not alone. Thomas felt it all. Thousands of consciousnesses, each unique, each valuable, each choosing to be part of something greater. The network grew stronger with every addition. 4 minutes. The founding five stood apart, watching. Their ancient forms were diminished, uncertain. For millions of years, they had controlled everything. Now they were being asked to let go. High Arbiter Melox moved toward Thomas. Its voice was broken, stripped of its ancient authority. We were wrong. We see that now. But what we did to protect the galaxy. Even if our methods were cruel, our purpose was real. Thomas nodded. I know. Maya told me. You were guardians who became tyrants. But the role of guardian still exists. The galaxy still needs protection. He extended his hand toward the Arbiter. You can be part of the new network. Not as rulers. Not as controllers. As equals. As beings who carry the memory of what came before and the responsibility to make sure it never happens again. Melox hesitated. For millions of years, it had been supreme. Now it was being asked to become one voice among many. 2 minutes. The Arbiter reached out. Its folded space form touched Thomas's hand. The connection formed. And with it came memory. The true history of the Council. The desperate creation of the founding five by dying species. The long war against the Hollow Ones. The gradual corruption of purpose into power. Thomas understood everything now. The tragedy and the hope. The failure and the possibility of redemption. 1 minute, the network was complete. Every species, every delegate, every consciousness in the Convergence Hall, joined together in a web of shared awareness. The Hollow Ones pressed against the barrier one final time. Maya raised her hands. Light poured from every being in the chamber, flowing through the network, strengthening the barrier. Now, she said, all together, push them back. The combined consciousness of 1,000 civilisa.